Hey guys, this is Silver and today we will be doing the part 2 of transmigrated into the world of SCP. Now let's get right into the video. Make number 1. When the Foundation told me they wanted me to meet with a talking missile, I expected a lot of things. Just was not prepared for it to be so childish. And I'm telling you, I am the biggest bestest missile ever. I have the biggest explosion radius of them all. I guess they wanted to know if I could also negate telepaths and if I could willingly let them talk to me. And I'm telling you, I could probably make a bigger boom than you. Have you not been fired before? I'm pretty sure I read somewhere something about you being a dud. What are you talking about? I am no dud. And how would you even make a bigger explosion than me? He was somewhat annoying. Like when you visit your cousin and he just talks your ears off. Just fire me? I'ma prove to you I'm the very best. Come on, do it? You know you want to. Don't deny the beauty of explosions. Make number 2 talking with Cassie was interesting. A bit sad since she was stuck in paper, but very interesting anyway. Taking those sign language classes finally paid off. She was very enthusiastic about the impossible drawings that they brought to her. She kept bringing more and more into her painting through a door that clearly went somewhere but I couldn't see where. After about an hour of her trying to explain to me how the looping staircase worked, we both gave up. Make number 3 SCP-021 was clearly Cassie's distant cousin. The Foundation wanted to know if I could also repel things that wanted to stick to me, and not just mental effects. The dragon on the Class D rookie looked like evil incarnate. No matter how many researchers told me it was harmless, it looked like it wanted to bite my arm off. I felt a little bit of pressure where the dragon thing kept trying to jump into my arm and a presence in my mind that was annoyed about something. Fortunately it seemed unable to transfer into me without my consent. The Class D just looked happy she wasn't about to lose her cool dragon tattoo. Make number 4 Specialist Rian was intense. She had this no-nonsense air around her. She was mostly annoyed that she couldn't find a reason behind my ability to boost stuff. Supposedly she was the leading expert in thaumaturgy in the Foundation and it grated her that she couldn't detect with some magic what I was doing. She became so annoyed that she decided we were done with the experiments and left to eat at the nearest Ambrose restaurant. I admit I was rather skeptical about eating some anomalous food, even if I had some kind of poison and disease resistance. Something about the bright pink hamburger in front of me just didn't sit right with me. Come on, Gabriel. Just eat the damn hamburger. You've been staring at it for the last 20 minutes. Maybe she was also annoyed that I was letting perfectly good food get cold. Ms. Watson - I told you to call me Rian outside of the lab. Rian, the damn hamburger is pink. It was a really shiny, fluorescent, eye-hurting shade of pink. And? Just eat it already. I promise it will taste good. I really wasn't interested in suddenly growing a third eye or something. It had happened before, and it was really disorienting. With a sigh, I bit down on the hamburger, and marveled at how something so funky looking could taste good. That's when the laughing started. I just sighed, looked up, and saw my beautiful red hair slowly transforming pink before I could even assert red as my dominant hair color. Magic was bullshit sometimes. The agents around us, who were here for our protection, were almost pissing themselves. I guess they finally got to see me in a dumb situation. They couldn't exactly take revenge on me themselves after all. And they had reasons to try after Dr. Bright had the bright idea to change all the grenades in Site 27 to confetti bombs, and enlisted my help to do it. Apparently I was very distracting when I fought 682. Once the parchment was signed, I was suddenly back in the containment room, the damn bright white lights glaring down on me, the devil wannabe nowhere to be seen, and around 15 different agents aiming their guns at me. Well, come in peace. I felt something hit me in the arm, looked down, and saw a very sleek-looking dart poking out of it. That was weird. Humans didn't have darts sticking out of their arms. Suddenly I felt 3 more darts hit me, and I realized the guards were shooting at me with something. Hey now, that W was totally uncesara-POV, Dr. Harold blank. Well, I think we found our lost D class. A few groans sounded around the room. Some, I noticed, were from Relief though. I think he is a bit too different than the one we sent in. Dr. Mark Kiryu pointed out the obvious. The D class was indeed different to the last one to come in contact with 738, but he resembled him enough for me to believe he was the same person. He is not completely human anymore too. Another DR that I did not know the name of commented. And how do you know that? Really, if we ignored the impossibly bright red hair, he looked human enough. I was sure he could walk around in public and no one would pay him any mind. Well, if we ignore the fact that he didn't fall asleep immediately after being shot with the first sleeping dart, his presence is heavier than what any human presence has any right to be. He was one of the crazy ones. Since the incorporation of the thaumaturgy branch, stuff had been going in the right direction. You just had to ignore one or two things that made you question reality. Why would someone bake a flying cake? What do you mean by presence? Mark interjected again. Well, if I had to explain it, being around him, while aware of how to feel magic, will make you feel like you were trying to walk through mud. I'm amazed by how much pressure he is exerting while clearly unconscious, to be able to make me feel it from so far away. That really didn't explain much. But I guessed we now had some new information about him. Do we have to start a new entry in the logs for a potential new SCP? A researcher to my left asked, looking warily towards the big screen in front of us. That would be for the best. He clearly is an anomaly now. If one didn't want to believe Dr. Magic Man about the presence thing, the guards around our new SCP clearly felt something. They were too tense. Was his presence strong enough to be felt by normal people? All right, I'll get to it. And he left in a hurry. Maybe he also felt the pressure. The radio to our left started to buzz and the voice of one of the guards came in. What do we do with the D class? I pushed the PTT button. Take it to one of our empty SCP cells for humanoids. We believe it to be a new anomaly. Please be careful. So, DR magic started. What do we do with it? It's clearly not insane normally. He tried talking with the guards. Maybe it will be open to dialogue without issues. A newbie scientist behind us said something along the lines of it. I believe it would be wise to put it in a Euclid-level cell and use one of the radios to speak with it. I turned around and Gerald, we call it because it is now an anomaly now. Indeed. POV Gabriel, there is something about waking up from a drug-induced sleep that I've always hated. The feeling of sluggishness but urgency to do something has always made me very uncomfortable. I first noticed the dim bright white lights, then the room around me. That looked suspiciously like the one I was in before, but without SCP-738. Was I remembering stuff better? I definitely didn't remember what number the SCP the Devil's Deal was before. Then I noticed everything seemed a little bit smaller. Did I grow taller? And finally the red hair that was pulling around me. I quickly stood up, and almost immediately fell down because of disorientation. My head was spinning and my vision blacked out for a second. Then everything became clear, much clearer than it had ever been before. I remember that in my first life I had to use glasses. I just felt like I had put some on. Fuck tranquilizers. A speaker in the right far corner of the room turned on. Hello SCP-12725. Are you aware of your surroundings? Who you are? A somewhat distorted voice came through. Loud and clear, a little bit too loud now that I thought about it. Yeah, I finished my deal with the Henry XP, returned, and then a bunch of guards shot me with what I can only assume were a bunch of tranquilizers. What gives? Well, you have to understand that when someone disappears suddenly with an object of interest, we would be somewhat gun-happy. Another voice came from the speaker this time. A much more jovial and young-sounding one. I guess playing dumb about what I did was not going to fly. After waiting for a few seconds I spoke. I guess you have a point. I heard a snort and the old voice spoke to me again. Where did you come from? What did you do? Where did you go? What deal did you make? What did it cost you? And what can you tell us about SCP-738? Whoa, slow down a bit, I'll answer your questions, just give me a minute to orient myself. I still felt somewhat dizzy, but what really took my attention was the feeling of being able to just feel everything around me. I intrinsically knew that everything around me was inferior to me, that everything was flawed, that I was flawed, and if I so wished, I could make everything more than it was. More than what reality told it to be. Now the question is, how would I do that? Please answer the questions. We will use force to make you answer if needed. Now that was just bullshit. If they believed they had that kind of force, they wouldn't be in a different room talking to me through a speaker. Or maybe they did have. Man, fuck the SCP verse. Thinking about it for a second, I decided to comply. I benefited in no way, shape, or form if I antagonized the Foundation. There was very little stuff the Foundation couldn't deal with. and that was mostly because they either didn't have enough quality personnel or some of the things were right out just uncontainable. In order, I am from Tennessee. If you mean how I got into the cell with the other D class, I have no idea. I took a breath. I still had no idea where I was now that I thought about it. I just asked the man in the chair to please make our deal private and he appeared to teleport us to an office in a skyscraper. Why wasn't I as nervous as I was before? I also felt much more prideful and what I was used to. I made a deal to obtain the principles of domination. And what did that really entail? I know I have somehow changed in ways I did not expect. Leaving those thoughts behind before I got existential, did I really want to tell the Foundation I accepted a deal where I had to free one of their contained SCP? No, not really. And finally, SCP, what did you call it? 738? Was a man in a really nice suit. Had a bunch of stuff in his office, like, a lot of stuff. Was very professional, though at the beginning he sounded like a door salesman. Also didn't have to mention any of my now remembered meta-knowledge. You skipped what was the price for this principle of domination. Ah, he noticed that. What do I do? Do I act dumb again? No, that really wouldn't work in the long run. Did I lie my ass off? Seemed to run into the same issue as acting dumb. Also, as I began to notice, the idea of lying just pissed me off. I did. I don't think I will be telling you about what the price was. Felt nothing about denying a request though. Silence was my only answer for a couple of minutes. It would have been stress-inducing if I wasn't marveling at my surroundings. Everything seemed to be filled with what I could only describe as potential and value. I tried to increase my value and nothing really happened. Was boost some type of power derived from domination instead of being part of it? How could I Kyoken myself? Learning this type of stuff seemed stupidly important in the SCP-verse. Maybe I'd have to do some Nasu shit and self-hypnotize myself into thinking I had something to surpass/dominate something for my power to instinctually help me? I was technically already fighting many things. For example gravity, it was constantly pulling me down, but I couldn't really do anything other than know I was winning. What? Is being able to move and stand up really considered a winning condition against gravity? Maybe I just unconsciously didn't think it necessary to boost myself to fight gravity. That is so weird. The only other thing I knew was fighting me was the damn tranquilizer. Maybe I could boost my metabolism to get rid of it? How do I do it? The power feels very instinctual, not logically driven, at least until I get better with it. So maybe if I thought of the foreign substance as an opposition to my domination over my body I would fight it harder. That seemed like a good place to start at. Not like I had any better ideas. I lied on the bed and closed my eyes. Played around with ideas of dominating the drug, no matter how silly that sounded. When I suddenly felt it. My power answering my plea to show the drug its place, make it know it had no right to affect me, and my head suddenly felt much better. I stood up and jumped around a bit, performed some of the tests you would do to a drunk person to see how far gone they were, and found myself perfectly healthy. I got pretty excited. This meant I could actively react to stuff that was affecting me. Could I also fight off telepaths with this? Amid my celebration, the speakers turned on again. What are your plans for the future? It was the younger voice. It sounded oddly happy about something. Did they really have to interrupt me? Before all of this I was planning on graduating, finding a job, and doing normal civilian shit. Because really, what else was I supposed to strive for in a life I was convinced was going to be normal? What are you planning to do now? The younger voice said again, trying and failing at putting much seriousness in its voice. Well, you have me intrigued. What are these SCPs and how many are you willing to let me play with? And I've seen a couple of people talking about Morag Bal. I'ma be honest with y'all, I have no fucking clue who that is. I know he is from Skyrim, and that he has some connection to domination, only know this because some people pointed that out, but to me he has always been some kind of angry murder hobo. Also, he likes vampires? Point is, if you expect the MC to be anything like the Morag guy, I'm going to disappoint y'all. If by some reason he does happen to resemble the guy, it is going to be a coincidence. Also, I put the story on NSFW because, you know SCPs, not because I will write lemons. I don't want my story to be ruined because of poorly implemented and written lemons, so I do not think there will be any in the story. Maybe as Omax, or non-canon stuff. I really can't think of a way to write a lemon that would Make me not want to die because of embarrassment. Also, writing about how the MC is discovering how to use his power just feels kinda lame. I don't know how it feels for readers though, so please tell me if I should just skip these kinds of information dumps.